Akwaba, welcome to Tikyiile Talks. This is a platform where I, Tikyiile, have conversations with people from different walks of life who share their thoughts and pass their story thus far. I hope you enjoy. So what are your views on Blackout Tuesday?
It's actually a weird one, because if people didn't do it, you judge them, but people did it, you judge them. Because it's just like, okay, now you put yourself forward, how are you going to uphold this?
Yeah.
Then if people didn't do it, it's just like, oh, so where do you stand on that?
But the thing is, a lot of people, people who hadn't said anything at all, it was just an excuse for them to just post something and then leave it and run away.
Yeah.
Because like our friends were saying how if companies have put that black square on, you need to challenge them and be like, have you done this, this and this?
You,
or like,
you've made a commitment.
Yeah. Like what are you doing?
So
Like,
I think big brands like Nike and Adidas and Jordan have obviously all pledged certain amounts of money over a certain period of time afterwards as well. But like all companies following through and all people following through.
Yeah, because like it's not, obviously it's the big hit as well, but even like local businesses, it's just
100%.
like they are black people in this city, in this town, and like are you going to help them?
Yeah.
Or are you just going to post a black square and fit in with the status quo of
Yeah.
like the lockdown moment? Do you know what I mean? And it's so much more than that.
So
So I
plenty of
think-
people who posted it and deleted afterwards and said,
Have they?
definitely, I've seen definitely people posted and deleted afterwards.
That's wild behaviour.
It's rude. It's actually rude, isn't it?
Because I think even I remember on the day I was looking through it and just like the hashtag to see, because obviously everything's black, so if you put anything which is different, it's going to stand out. And I
Yeah.
scrolled through and I found somebody, I think it was a white girl or something, who posted something, and it was just pictures of herself. Like she put like in a white screen, or like a half black, half white screen, and then you swipe through just pictures of herself advertising her own page. I saw it, yeah, and then people just roasting in the comments saying, "Why are you doing this? This is this." I think, oh gosh.
Yeah,
That's
wow.
mad. A lot. I remember some people that I follow posted like role models that they have, so
Right.
like musicians, and then posted like why they're influential, which is so much more like important than just like do something about square.
Yeah, so like Black Panther
Yeah.
and things like that. Yeah.
But then there was like this video where it was she was saying like, why are people coming to me to ask me what to read and like what to do? It's like you have Google, do it yourself.
Yeah.
And it like I remember like putting on my story like, oh, if anyone wants these books, you can have them. But I'm like, why? Why am I doing that when like I literally spent so much
we've had
time
to find out our own
exactly and
history.
research it ourselves. Spend
Like,
all money
why
on
can't
it.
you find out?
Because
our
if you
history?
care about it that much, you'll go out your way to do it.
Yeah, and
There's
you
no way you're
should,
gonna ask
yeah.
somebody else when you can find it yourself.
Like we learn about things to do with British history that doesn't apply to us.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, but we're not learnt about this. We all learnt about it from day one to the nth degree. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, why don't you take some time out to learn about us because you suppressed us?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you should learn about that, and you know, it makes you more historically minded anyway.
It's like aware. Like I think, like morally, you're a better person if you understand like. Not just like, not even black people struggle, it's like the whole identity
culture,
issue. Yeah. Even like trans rights or like gay rights, like anything to do with something that's othered, they're oppressed. Like that's just a fact. Like white Caucasian male is like, it's patriarchy. So if you take the time out to learn other people's like narratives, other people's identity, you're a better person because you respect and you
And you
actually
in the most selfish
Exactly,
way to
yeah.
mention your identity.
And how do you know that you touched, I don't know, someone's hair, and you don't know how they'll react to that, you don't know how that impact they'll have, and you say, oh yeah, you look really nice, you look so much better with straight hair. That impact could be so huge on one little black girl in like, I don't know, like year one, to the point where she gets to like whatever age and she doesn't even want to have her hair out anymore. Like that's why it's a political issue, because people have like oppressed them in so many different ways, and if you know about it, then you're not actually oppressing people in
Exactly. Because if you've done research, you realise actually I need to be careful the way I say things, because even though I think it's light-hearted, somebody might really impact somebody in the wrong way.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what we see with our cousins. Like everyone takes like the black experience is very different. So people that weren't speaking up. I remember one of our friends was like, "It's a really heavy topic for me, so I don't really want to talk about it." And I'm like, "That's fine, because we're the people, or she's the person who's taken so much. She doesn't really want to talk about it because it's still so raw." And I think a lot of people did. I think everyone has PTSD who is from a like an ethnic background, because there's certain ways that you've been completely like ostracized and you don't recognise it until it hits you like straight in the face and often it's way too late. The edges are probably gone by then, or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
It's interesting because I remember reading through like posts of like my friends and these people and they'll share their own experiences, and there'll be certain things that I think somebody wrote something like, he said something like, "Oh, what does it mean when you say you sound too white for a black person, or like you're a coconut, all that kind of stuff." Like, what does you always think if you hear all the time, you say, "Oh, you sound very posh for a black person." I don't expect you to sound like that. You're not like the rest. You don't really deep it till you leave and you realize, actually, a second, what does that mean? How do I sound too white to be such and such? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. There was like a whole list of what the like classic is, I don't date black girls or I don't date black guys. That one is so bad.
Especially in town like this.
So have you ever had experiences like guys who try to date you purely because you're mixed race? Would you say?
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think. Yeah, I guess so. I think we have our experience obviously is so different to other people's. We're light skinned as well. We're from the north. I feel like we have to like think about how our experience is different. I think that's really important. But I think so. But,
P500 Twitter's ruining everything. Yeah, like they really are.
Wow. Would you have any black role models or role models in general that you look up to? Your mum.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing your mum surely. But why? What is it about your mum that you think
I just think I think any because I remember there was like a statistic where black women are like the most like undesirable ethnic minority.
Right.
And to me it just baffles me. But also I feel like black women really do have a hard time in every single angle.
Yeah.
And I think that's the interesting thing about black masculinity, because in America they have the superiority of being male, but they actually have the inferiority of being black. But then that is such a toxic trait, because you can either succeed with that or you can literally be pulled over and we've seen get killed for literally no reason. But I think my mum in going back to the question, she's achieved so much for just a woman. It doesn't matter that she's black. She's worked. She's got a master's degree. She's got a degree. She's done the most, and she's raised 3 kids all by herself, without help from anybody financially and stuff. And that's a big thing.
Yeah, you don't really appreciate it till you've grown up and think, wow.
100%. Yeah, and I just feel that's just a side of gender and race struggle that she's actually pulled through. She actually has, and some people will be there to see her lose rather than succeed.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm trying to think who else. There's some people that have been cancelled recently though. John Barnes. I used to think oh my god, such a cool footballer, Jamaican. That guy is so bad. He talks the worst stuff ever.
What did he say?
He just says he's literally the token black sky presenter, and just he's Jamaican, but he's upper class Jamaican, and he thinks that makes him better than everyone else. And it's just no. And he went through so much with
because I've seen pictures where people throwing bananas into the pictures.
And I had so much admiration for him until he opened his mouth and started talking
he was after he was tired, wasn't it?
Kind of thing.
While I was a player, he was kind of still okay. I think.
Yeah.
Not okay, but
yeah.
And you have people like Ian Wright, and you're just come on.
You're not a fan of him either?
No, we love him.
Oh, we love him. I love Ian.
My mum loves him.
Everyone
He's
loves
he is the uncle.
I
just love him so much, and he's not afraid to talk about he's not afraid to cry. He's not afraid to talk about emotional things. But also, he's a role model. Yeah. 100%.
Ian's definitely doing well for him.
Yeah.
And Storms is doing very well today. The way he's trying, because I heard he's been doing the scholarship to Cambridge as well.
Yeah, the scholarship. I think but in general, just for art in general, he does so much, and I think art is obviously it's not an easy kind of thing to go into.
Definitely.
And to support that is just really cool.
Yeah. I can't believe I've never been asked who's your black role model. I've never been asked that before.
I've been asked that before.
Because I've always been asked who's your sporting, rather than in the field of race.
Because like, it's not really a question. Like it's just like who's your normal role model? Like you see like a white person or something. Because that's all you ever see on social media. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So how important do you think it is to educate yourself on Black history?
It's like the most important.
Because you both studied history as well.
Yeah, it's really important. Yeah. So I remember doing a module in my final year about Northern Scotland. It was amazing. Like I loved it. But then I came like halfway through. I came a bit disillusioned with it. I was just like this is all right, but it's like it's not like fulfilling my identity in a sense. I mean, so history doesn't have to do that, but when you're doing about like the North, maybe you feel like it should. You know, made to feel like an outsider about where you're from. And then we did a lecture about whose history is this. You know, again, it was talking about agendas and like houses and posh people and stuff, and how most of these houses built off like slave money. Why do we not talk about so colonial history, like Liverpool, for example, or maybe the way in which inhabitants of Black people came up from like London after immigrating here. And I was just like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, it's so hard to find your own history in where you're from, but once you do, like, it's so
original, right?
Yeah. It's, I think like it is the most important thing that you can do as a Black person. Because like it's so hard to find out who you are and your identity, especially like somewhere like Chesterfield, where you're not surrounded with any Black people. If you do, you know them. Either your cousin or your family.
It's one of those with your school. It's like I think it's even interesting as well because in school everyone say, "Oh, is this your cousin? Is this your brother?" And the thing is, it gets a point. It gets a point. It gets one thing. Oh yeah, you go along with the joke. You say, like, "Hold on a second. I've never seen somebody, a white person, and gone to say to them, is this your cousin?" You not think to that at all.
Not at all. So it's so important to learn about identity, and you know you're not really going to get given it in school to an extent.
That's the whole thing back to that Black Panthers, like you talk about hairstyle, like if you know like your like Black history, you know like what like for example like hairstyles, or even like I don't even know like music. That's a part of you that like is not going to be like accessed anywhere else, because it's not going to be screaming at you like down Chatsworth Road, is it? Or for example, I feel like I'm using Chatsworth loads, but that's why it like really matters, like because representation is literally just unearthing like historical, like even like artifacts, historical sort of like events and narratives, and bringing them into like the main like focus. And if that is not being done, then like you don't even recognise like yourself anymore.
Yeah, you've got to fish it out yourself.
Yeah.
But how do you think like the education system could help doing that? What would you like to see?
The education system is so bad. Like
they like, for example, the war. Yeah, the war is mad interesting, but you're only taught it from a European perspective.
Yeah.
But if you learn about the colonial soldiers, loads of stuff went off in France, which is like immensely interesting.
Yeah, the Algerian War.
Yeah, the Algerian War. Loads of stuff in Africa. You know, how like the Caribbean soldiers came over, loads of people from India and Pakistan.
Yeah.
Like that stuff needs to be told because it's so interesting. It's just like, why are you like making a really interesting subject boring? Like, why are you not doing it justice? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Just because you're racist, like, come on.
What would you say to people who say, yeah, we understand that, but obviously we're living in England where it's obviously more white people than there are minorities, so it makes sense to just show more of the British culture because that's the country we're living in.
But then we're
built on an empire.
Yeah, we're built on an empire, but also like if you try and think about British things, like you see an ethnic person within that. If you think about 2012, you think about Jess Ennis.
Yeah.
Jess Ennis' dad is from Jamaica. Do you know what I mean?
If you think about like,
it's from China.
Yeah, that caused like the Opium Wars. Like there's so much. Like Britain is not Britain without its empire. Like the complete construction of like identity within Britain is because of its like past, which is heavily influenced by its empire. Yeah.
So it's like,
so you're not addressing that issue.
Right.
Then you're literally like that's propaganda, then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I wonder how many kids know that tea comes from China. Like I bet hard or like there's tea leaves in Sri Lanka. I bet hardly any like.
No, just picked up, put it in.
Yeah, and then the sugar. Oh yeah, the sugar's from like Jamaica. It's from like plantation that they used to own. Like that is a huge construction of British identity, but it's completely thrown in the empire. Yeah.
But also like the way the empire is taught is just things to be proud of, and it's just like
it's really not. Yeah.
Why is this?
But
Why are
it's
you
just the
talking
angle.
about?
Yeah, it's the angle that
Do
you
you know
show
what I
them at.
mean? And it's like they should be more of like a service. I think you can teach stuff that is British. You can teach Russian Revolution. You can teach the war. You can teach about I don't know anything. But if you put a diversity aspect into it, like that should be paramount because it makes it so much more interesting. First of all, second of all, it's giving it justice, the actual topic.
Yeah.
And also, like, you don't know how it's going to change anyone, a black person, a white person, whatever. It can change their aspect of how they see the world, and that's like really important.
You show them everything. If you're gonna show one thing, might as well show everything.
Yeah.
Or you're just hiding a certain degree.
There's
People
so
just go
much.
that narrative afterwards.
Yeah, there's so much of there's so much of British history to be like so proud of and so like enjoyable and so interesting. But why give them almost like a lie when there's so much more enriching stuff?
Right.
Like I don't think there's one thing to be proud of within the empire because the amount of like devastation, the amount of like even like post-colonial sort of like attitudes and resentment is like still ongoing now. But you can look at so much more interesting like facets of like British culture, British society that you can literally like teach in school. Why do we have to focus on like literally I think one of like the worst things?
It's war. It's almost always negative.
100%. It's always in like
It's
a
always-
slave narrative.
Yeah.
It's
And
just
it's like, how does that make us feel?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
everyone's looking at you.
Yeah.
Because I remember this day I was sitting in history, probably year 9 or something, and I always find it interesting sitting in those race conversations in school because it's one of those ones where anything you say, it's fine because everyone kind of feels sorry for you in that sense.
Yeah.
Because since talk about racism, everyone turns around, looks at you, says, "I think why look at me for like if there's more than me just in the room? Like why do you have to?" It's almost like, "Oh, do you now feel sorry for me?" Or is it like a touchy subject for you? Like what's that all about?
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's like, really, I feel sorry for you because you don't know what's happening. I know what's happening.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm aware.
you're living with it.
You're living in your own world, like. But yeah, it is. Those discussions in school are always like interesting.
Definitely.
And it's like we should be made to feel bad. Like,
Yeah.
what did we do? What did we do to anything wrong? And also, we have so our culture and our history and everything about us is so beautiful because even though we're not there yet, we've overcome something, and it's just like that needs to be celebrated. It's like, why do we have to do this on our own? Why can't you actually like look at what you did and think, look at these people and how amazing they are? And it's just like, no, you just like
Take parts what they want and then leave.
Exactly. Insert tonight right there.
Big up the whole island, massive. It's your boy Chatana, coming straight from the Golden Globes, you want saying? Me father Tom Hanks presenting in a white soon forward come. Big up.
That's why I get like the Adele thing is like loaded because there's someone can do something, and because it's such a sensitive issue, and because we've explored Henry VIII's 8 wives, but we've not actually explored like I don't know the Boer War and like the actual devastation did on like concentration camps with like diamonds and stuff. It becomes an issue because there's ways in which like the British narrative or the British or white Caucasian people have actually oppressed so much, and then you use that hairstyle and that's your identity and you feel so protective of that, and then you just use it and there's no history, there's no love there. Exactly, yeah. And I think that is like the main thing where like and a lot of people call us like snowflake generation or say a lot of things about cultural appropriation and stuff, but it's a heavy thing because how many times did how many girls in like our school straighten who were black straightened their hair? Probably like nearly everyone because it wasn't socially acceptable or it didn't feel comfortable to like have your hair natural, and then you want to just do braids like that, like it's okay. But when we do it, everyone wants to touch it, and everyone wants to like comment on it.
It's different.
Yeah. I think hair is like the biggest thing because it's such.
Well, for us too.
Yeah.
I guess. Well.
Yeah, I think for us too, like I guess for like, a lot of our friends, because it's the clearest sign of like almost like being oppressed in like or just conforming to social norms rather than being oppressed.
But then it says a lot about identity, and I think for me it always comes back to identity. Like if you know who you are and where you've come from, like no one can take that.
Yeah, you can celebrate it.
That's
yeah.
very true. Because you know identity before for
it.
anything. That's I definitely get what you're talking about.
So like, yeah, it's just so important. Like, yeah.
Because, like you sometimes you're proud of a history which isn't even yours.
Yes.
Because you don't know where you're really from.
It's like American history. It's like it's taught to us like this country is the same, and it's just like nah.
Yeah, because they only broke what they wanted you to see. So this looks really good. Obviously, if you do your own research and look down, you have to if you go behind the face, you see the people who actually put the work in to make that the country the way it is.
Yeah.
And you never hear about those people.
No, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Like the White House was built by slaves. But I wonder how many people actually know that.
People not know that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and also so many really like successful like prime ministers or like MPs, businessmen. They're literally like they were plantation owners like centuries ago, and that is inherited wealth. And you see the transition of like British society in class, in race, in gender,
right.
And it has so much heavy links towards the people who literally built it, which is not them. It's literally the colonised. Yeah.
No, I hear. Final question. In 2020, what does it mean to be black?
It's beautiful. It's like the best thing ever. It's like the best but worst thing ever.
It is. But I like I said, like I was saying something like when I was doing dissertation, like I'm proud to be a black woman, or mixed race woman, black woman, because like you see the reality of the world. Like I'm not hiding behind a different colour skin or a privilege. Like I'm seeing everything straight up.
Yeah.
And it's just like that's a privilege to have that and not be like ignorant or just not ignorant or just to be completely unknown about the world. So it's like a privilege. It shouldn't be a hindrance, but also, it's cool. Like it's not, you shouldn't be ashamed of it at all.
Yeah.
Once you find your identity, like it should be such a beautiful experience. Like for me, it was a beautiful experience, and
But we're not even halfway there.
Yeah, and like it's so amazing, and but you have to do that. You need to do that to do yourself justice in life, I think.
Yeah.
Wow. Any final thoughts? No movies you want to mention no movies you want to mention?
If you need help.
The one where it's like, wait, and they disappeared.
Right, that's been episode 8 of Tikyiile Talks with Ella Barrett. Girls, thank you so much for coming again.